Survival games. They're a broad genre, but one that always brings plenty of challenge and things to worry about. There's quite a lot of survival games and games with strong survival elements in 2023. We've got 10 new and upcoming games to talk about today, so let's get started off with number 10. Road to Vostok is an interesting one because it's got a little bit of a different spin on the formula. So in it's first-person shooter, of course, but it's got a little bit of a dash of Cormac McCarthy's The Road to it. It's in a post-apocalyptic setting, and you are on a journey. You're kind of stuck in this end-of-the-world border zone between Finland and Russia, and it's your job to fight, hunt, shoot, scavenge, and survive, and get across this kind of no-man's land post-apocalyptic zone and cross the border safely. The game's all about survival, of course, in terms of dealing with the environment, dealing with hostile enemies everywhere, sneaking around them, trying to scavenge, craft your own weapons, even build out your own temporary shelters. And the way the game is structured is that apparently as you get closer to the border, the game is going to get more challenging. The shelters that you survive in seem pretty cool looking. The inventory we've seen so far seems well organized, and we just really like the idea behind this one. As of right now, it doesn't technically have a release date, and this one does seem like it's from a very small developer. We can't find too much on them, but we're keeping our eye on this one and we hope it releases soon. Now, next over at number 9, sticking with the theme of hoping it releases soon, of course we have State of Decay 3. Undead Labs has been cooking on this one for a while, working on this one for quite some time, and we've been looking forward to it because the State of Decay games are just really good zombie survival game concepts. But we still don't think that potential has fully been realized, and a third game could really knock it out of the park. We're still waiting with bated breath though. All we have is this teaser trailer, where it's like in the snow, so maybe a winter theme, and zombie animals that maybe you have to deal with. That is literally all we have to go on. We've been waiting for updates for this game for so long, and this one is a bit of a long shot for 2023, but hey, it could release as a surprise towards the end of the year. Who knows? Still, we definitely think after the updates and everything with State of Decay 2 and then the gap between now and then, it is definitely time for a new one. Next over at number 8, we have The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. Now, this definitely seems like the kind of Lord of the Rings game that should have already existed. The idea is brilliant. You play as a group of dwarves who return to Moria to reclaim it from all the evil that's taken over and all the tragedy. Now, in typical dwarf fashion, you're mining for resources, but then you're using those resources to craft new and better gear, as well as excavate and rebuild Moria as you go with some good old-fashioned base building. In particular, the base building seems cool because it's not like Valheim where you're building in a big open space. Here, you're building in more condensed, confined spaces, the mines, which could lead to some really fun and interesting building and also gameplay and combat survival scenarios, because you're hunting and fighting off hordes of orcs and other weird creatures that are creeping around in the dark. And, of course, it's something that you can play cooperatively, which is brilliant, and we're looking forward to seeing how this one really pans out when it releases this fall. Next over at number 7, we have another post-apocalyptic survival game called Rooted. This one is first and third person post-apocalyptic survival. You can play it completely solo or with friends, and of course you're running around scavenging through abandoned buildings to find supplies to survive and fight. Sounds very typical, survival game stuff, of course, but it is worth pointing out that this one is developed in Unreal Engine 5, so just from what we've seen so far, it's pretty gorgeous looking. This is another one from a small studio, but we're hoping that they can really take advantage of Unreal Engine 5 to make some really cool looking environments. So far, the early stuff shows promise, and we're hoping we see more of it this year because we want to know what the deal is with this one. Like, what's the other spin? Everything we've read, everything we've seen about it so far, the Steam page describes a pretty standard survival game, but they gotta have some creative spin to it, and we're looking forward to seeing what they have cooked up. And to be totally transparent, this is another one where there's not too much on it yet and a lot of really good sounding stuff on paper, but whether it turns out good or bad, from what we've seen so far, it's at least worth keeping one eye on. Next over at number 6, we have Stranded: Alien Dawn. This released in the spring, and people are absolutely loving it. This is a survival game with a space spin to it. Essentially, you're like an astronaut, a ship crew, scientists who are stranded on an alien planet, so it's about survival and saving your crew members, but on a hostile, strange alien planet, which is a perfect idea for this type of gameplay. It's not just a running and gunning type game either. You're building shelters, you're using science and technology, you're researching stuff to grow, you're managing the other survivors, like food levels, happiness, and stuff like that. And you're dealing with, like I said, a hostile alien planet that you don't understand. Typical things that you would do in other survival games maybe don't work out the same way because this planet is totally different flora and fauna that you need to stumble upon, discover, and really learn for yourself. It's all about threat assessment and science. Like we said, people are loving it so far. It's pretty in-depth. It's got a good look to it, a really nice color palette, and just cool, weird alien creatures. And you can build some pretty cool bases with your survivors, so consider checking out Stranded: Alien Dawn.